strategies and concepts discussed are for educational purposes only and do not represent specific investment, tax, or estate planning advice. Investing carries an inherent element of risk, and it is in everyone's best interest to consult a tax, legal, or investment professional. Beth Williams is an investment advisor representative of, and advisory services are offered through USA Financial Securities Corp., a registered investment advisor. Megan Carney, Megan S. Carney PLLC, and Financial Arc Builders are not affiliated with USA Financial Securities Corp.
Welcome to Money Healing. I'm your co-host, Beth Williams.
And I'm your other co-host, Megan Carney. We're here to talk about money and our feelings related to it. I'm a psychologist who specializes in helping sensitive people.
And I'm a financial planner. We both talk to everyday people just like you about these topics.
Everyone's mental health and money health journeys are so different. And as unique as we all are, there are some common themes when it comes to how our emotions impact our money and vice versa.
And it's those common themes that we are going to be discussing together, both the themes themselves and some ideas from us about how to move forward and heal your relationship with money. In the next bit of episodes, Megan and I will be unpacking the various emotions and trauma themes that we've encountered within our observations over the last few years.
We discovered that people fell into one of two camps, one that knows their numbers and where they are financially, and those that don't know their numbers and where they are financially. We recommend that you go through the episodes and listen to the ones you believe may apply to you.
Megan and I are big advocates for getting collaborative support for both your mental health and your financial health journey. As you listen, we recommend that you pay attention to yourself, your reactions emotionally, and reach out to either a mental health professional and or a financial professional to help you deal with your relationship with money.
We'll begin by discussing I don't know my numbers and blank. Is there something that comes after that? Emotional themes we'll discuss within that will be fear, avoidance. What happens if I lose or fail? Shame, guilt, and even domestic violence and abuse, with the overarching theme of trauma.
We will then discuss I know my numbers and blank. Some of the emotional themes that we'll discuss within that will be hopelessness, fear, shame, embarrassment, burnout, never enough, feeling lost, undervalued, worry, and then we'll also deal with the overarching theme of trauma. Welcome back to Money Healing. Today we're going to be talking about I feel like I know my numbers and where I am financially, but it feels like it's hopeless anyways. And I really am excited about this because I know Megan's got a lot of really great stuff to share, but I will start just really quickly. From a financial planner's perspective, typically when somebody's coming to me and they're feeling like it's hopeless or they don't even know where to start and that kind of thing, it's usually not as bad as they feel like it is. And usually I find that I'm more optimistic than the client is. So from my perspective, it's usually not as hopeless as it feels. And I think you had already alluded to this in a previous episode where going to somebody that can unpack those numbers without the emotions is probably a helpful thing. But I'm just going to start right off. Megan, how do you deal with the feeling of hopelessness? It's so big.
Well, you let it be there, right? You let it exist. Like, you're allowed to feel hopeless. It makes sense in a lot of situations that people would feel hopeless, right? Like, it's hard for people to not feel hopeless sometimes, especially if there's a mountain of debt that maybe you really don't understand or that feels insurmountable, like an insurmountable amount. I'm thinking about student debt, for example. I am a person who has an amount that feels somewhat insurmountable, like that ever being paid off for a long time felt very hopeless to me. And I was just like, well, I'm just going to be paying this until I die, which is not a fun feeling. But I had to just let myself accept that that might be true, and get some realistic feedback about it.
Yeah, and I think that some of that also comes down to like retirement, or I hear a lot of people just trying to figure out like what's this next phase, and it really is just, I think, too big of a chunk. And we talked about this in a previous episode too, where we at MIT did a study on this where there's 4 phases of 8,000 days each, and just taking them one phase at a time, which is basically like 22 years, it makes it feel less overwhelming, I think. And just realizing where you are right now is where you're at, and it's probably not as bad as it feels like it is. I think really helps to just take some of that emotions away. But
As you were speaking about that, you made me think about people who might feel like it's hopeless because they hadn't started saving for retirement, or had saved very little for retirement up until that point. And now it feels hopeless that they could potentially have enough. Or maybe they hadn't been putting away money for their child's college education for a long time, and now it feels hopeless that they're going to be able to support their kid in any way with going to college from a financial perspective.
well, and I think that what you were saying about just letting the emotions exist, that those are big, big topics and big issues, and there's fear and shame and guilt, like we've already talked about in other episodes. But then I think when you get yourself so maybe riled up and it feels hopeless, maybe it's not. I don't know, because it's not my job to figure out the psychology of it, but I think that's okay. There's a lot of power in just being and having those emotions exist.
Absolutely. And it feels silly to say, but being comfortable feeling hopeless, right? Like, maybe in this situation, you're not the first one to hold on to some hope, right? And I have therapy clients who will tell me that a thing, or feeling better perhaps, feels pretty hopeless for them. And I can honestly say, like, that's okay. You can feel hopeless about this right now. Parts of you maybe don't feel hopeless because you are here, right? And I've got enough hope for both of us, right? I've seen this sort of thing enough that I know there's a better outcome on the other side for you. They don't have to have an ounce of hope at that point.
Kind of along those lines, it seems like, at least for me, I will hear people who say, I really want to do financial planning, and now's the time that I'm going to do financial planning, and then they don't. And I don't know, and this is part of why we have this podcast in the first place, I don't know that they know what emotions are coming up, but it clearly seems like there's something holding them back from seeking help. And I'm not exaggerating. I've had people that I've talked to for 3 or 4 years who have said, I want to do this, but we're not moving forward. And it seems like, for me, at least from my perspective, it feels like trying to get healthy before you go see the doctor. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, to wait until you are over the flu to go to the doctor and to ask for help, or to wait until your knee is better to go to the doctor for help. And where you're at is where you're at, and there's no judgment in our office. We try to be a very optimistic, no shame kind of zone, but it does seem like sometimes people are waiting until they're healthy to come and see us. So I guess, what are some of the emotions you think that are coming up in the way of getting some help or getting better?
Yeah, healthy enough, even, like, maybe not totally healthy, but healthy enough. One, I think, is shame, right? Like, oh, and when I say shame, most people are shooting themselves when they're feeling shame, They're saying, I shouldn't have this much debt, as we were talking about in our last episode, or I should have things more in order by now. I should have more money saved up. I should understand this better on my own before I have somebody else take a look at this and help me with these things. So there's certainly shame that comes into that. There's fear, right? Fear that might be connected with the shame, right? Fear that this financial person is going to really judge me, or fear that this financial person is going to tell me these things I'm hoping for and dreaming for and working towards aren't even attainable anyways, right? So there's that hopelessness creeping in there too. And then the guilt pairs right in with that, right? Because you're not where you hoped you would be at this point, and you're blaming that on yourself. Whether or not that's a legitimate thing to be doing, blaming yourself for your current financial situation, there were probably things that happened that you couldn't predict, that you had no control over, or very minimal control over, that impacted the way that your financial situation looks right now. So all of those big scary feelings that we don't like to sit with, not to mention anxiety, right? Those are all getting in the way of us going, right? And if you're waiting to go to the doctor until things are feeling a little bit better, just like you're waiting to go to the financial advisor until your finances are a little bit better, you're really setting yourself up for potentially harder times in the future, in my opinion, right? If you could have gone in early to the doctor and caught something early, you probably would have had different treatment options, more successful treatment options, and wouldn't have to feel bad as long, right? And it's the same thing with our finances. The sooner that we get help, the more options we have, the higher likelihood, at least from what I can tell, you have of having some financial success in whatever those goals are that you have for yourself. And you're going to get there faster than if you spent the next 5 years trying to figure it all out on your own.
Well, and I don't know about you, but WebMD kind of concept has not helped me a lot. So, because oftentimes if I'm feeling like, oh my gosh, this is so bad, whatever it is in my health, and I go to my doctor, it's really interesting to hear her go, yeah, that's not that big of a deal. And I think that goes back to, just trying to find a safe place and a safe advisor and a safe person to go to. And that's the same with your doctor. If you don't feel like that's the right person to go to because they're judging you or whatever, then maybe that's not the right fit. And at least for me, I think that that's a really great thing to go out and try to find. And maybe it's just that you didn't find the right fit before. And bring in your therapist and have your therapist vet for, are they a safe place or not too. We would love that. But I do think that just goes right back into, you don't need to try to figure it out yourself, and you don't need to be healthy before you go to the doctor, and you don't need to be healthy before you go to the financial professional.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you brought up WebMD, and it's like when you put all your symptoms in the little symptom checker thing, like undoubtedly the answer is always cancer from WebMD, right? And if you and it's never in reality, well, not never, but most of the time it is not in reality cancer. It is something far more benign. And if you do the same thing, like go to Google or whatever and try to like figure out with where you think you are right now and the symptoms you think you have, the answer is probably going to be something like, you're in financial ruin. It's hopeless. You can only eat beans and rice for 10 years to be able to save the amount of money that you need to save. And the reality is probably very far from that.
The talking heads of the world, who say you are in debt and you're too far in debt. I do think oftentimes it's just going back to what are they trying to promote? Maybe it's shame, maybe it's guilt, maybe it's their book, maybe it's their program.
Yeah, they're making that pain feel even worse so they can sell you a solution, right? So to wrap this all up, if you're feeling hopeless, don't go to Google, don't go to the equivalent of WebMD, which is going to tell you that things really are hopeless. I want you to keep in mind that idea of when to plant a tree. Yes, the best time to have planted a tree was 20 years ago. But the next best time to plant the tree is right now. And you can get things in order right now. You can have more clarity with things right now. And you don't have to go in with an ounce of hope to get it.
Well, thanks everyone for joining us. I hope that you have a little bit more hope and excitement about trying to get some of your financial picture in order and get the next steps going. For our next episode, we're going to be continuing on this theme of I feel like I know my numbers and where I am financially, but nobody else that I know gets financial help other than like taxes. That's what we're going to be talking about next, and we'll see you then.